In the endless dark of space, a group of alien ships drifted slowly across the stars. They were on patrol, scanning the void for anything unusual. Most days were quiet. The monitors showed nothing but dead rocks, frozen dust, and the cold silence of the galaxy. But on this day, something strange appeared. A signal flickered on their screens. Faint but steady, it was not a natural source. It was artificial, something built by hands. The alien commander leaned forward, his many eyes narrowing at the readings. His crew whispered to each other in nervous voices. At first they thought it might be debris from an old battle, a broken piece of technology drifting in the dark. But as their scanners sharpened the image, the truth made them fall into silence. Floating alone, motionless yet terrifying, was a massive human warship. The ship looked ancient and powerful at the same time. Its dark hull stretched across the stars like a sleeping beast. The aliens expected signs of damage, burn marks or broken sections, but there were none. The vessel was whole, untouched, as if it had been waiting in silence for someone to find it. The commander gave the order to scan, but even the scanners seemed hesitant, as if the machine itself feared what it was touching. At first, the readings were confusing. The outer surface of the ship looked metallic, yet the instruments reported pulses, faint energy signals like a heartbeat. The alien scientists frowned, whispering that no normal technology should behave this way. It was as if the ship was not just built, but alive. Their curiosity grew, but so did their fear. The youngest of the crew asked in a trembling voice, "How could humans build something like this?" The others had no answer. The commander tried to remain calm, but deep inside even he felt the chill of unease. For centuries, the aliens had watched humanity from a distance. They had seen humans fight wars, survive disasters, and spread across the stars with reckless courage. Yet they never imagined humans could create a warship like this. The closer they scanned, the more details unsettled them. The weapons were massive, far larger than anything the aliens carried. Energy readings spiked so high that their instruments nearly shut down. The ship's armor looked ordinary at first glance, but on closer inspection it absorbed every signal, refusing to reveal its secrets. One scientist gasped and said it was almost as if the ship wanted to remain hidden, to trick those who dared to scan it. For long minutes, the alien crew just stared at the image on their screens. The warship floated without movement, silent and still, yet it felt as though it was watching them back. One crew member whispered that it looked like a predator, a lion resting in the grass, appearing harmless until the moment it struck. The commander ordered silence, but his own voice shook slightly. They debated what to do next. Should they leave and report, or should they dare to move closer? One side argued it was too dangerous. If the humans had built such ships, then perhaps they had left it here as a trap. The other side said it was their duty to understand, their duty to know the enemy before it was too late. In the end, curiosity won. The commander gave the order. As their scanning drones moved closer to the human warship, strange interference filled the monitors, signals broke apart, screens flickered. The closer they came, the stronger the interference grew. It was as if the warship was resisting, pushing back against the scan. The drones transmitted fragments of data, each one more shocking than the last. Inside the hull there were chambers deep and hidden, filled with energy unlike anything the aliens had recorded. The commander clenched his claws as the data poured in. The readings made no sense. The power inside the ship seemed endless. No alien reactor could store so much energy. One of the scientists stammered that if even a fraction of that power was released, it could destroy an entire fleet. The room fell into silence again. No one spoke. The only sound was the hum of the machines and the pounding of alien hearts. Then something happened. The warship's outer lights flickered for a moment, just for a second, like the opening of an eye. The alien crew gasped. Some recoiled from their stations as if the ship could reach through the screen and strike them. But the lights faded, leaving the ship dark and silent once more. The commander shouted for calm, insisting it was just a trick of the instruments. Yet even he could not hide the unease in his voice. The crew realized one terrifying truth. The warship was not dead. It was not abandoned. It was only sleeping, waiting. The youngest alien whispered again, this time barely audible. What if the humans left it here on purpose? What if it is a warning? The commander did not answer, because deep down he feared the same, and so, in the middle of the endless dark, the alien fleet circled the silent warship, their scanners trembling, their voices low. What they had found was not just a ship. It was a message, a shadow of humanity's will. And though the vessel made no move, its silent presence was enough to terrify even the bravest hearts. For in the stillness of space they felt it watching, waiting, and promising something dreadful if disturbed. The drones drifted slowly through the void, their small engines humming faintly as they crossed the dark gap between the alien fleet and the human warship. The alien crew watched their monitors closely. Every flicker of data, every small reading, every faint sound was studied with nervous attention. It felt like they were not just approaching a ship, but crossing into the den of something dangerous, something waiting. At first, the drones reported ordinary readings: hull density, surface temperature, radiation levels, but then the numbers began to twist into impossible values. The hull looked like metal but gave off signals of something organic. One scientist whispered that the ship was breathing, though no lungs could be detected. Another protested, saying it was just a glitch, but the readings repeated again and again. The warship gave signs of life. The commander ordered deeper scans. Beams of energy swept across the dark hull, bouncing back strange echoes. The surface seemed to shift, almost like skin rippling under light. Some of the crew stepped back from their consoles, frightened at what they saw. Ships were supposed to be cold machines, not living things. One old engineer muttered that this was not human technology. It was human madness. Inside the hull, the scans revealed compartments stacked like layers of bone, strange chambers lined with dense material that blocked most signals. The few pieces of data that leaked out showed power sources beyond imagination. The energy was unstable, violent, and raw. Nothing in the galaxy matched it. The aliens had always considered themselves advanced, but compared to this, their weapons looked like sticks and stones. One drone sent back an image: a dark corridor inside the ship, lined with strange markings. The crew froze when they saw it. The symbols were not alien. They were human words written in bold, scarred into the walls as if by fire. The alien translators struggled to decode, and after a moment, the message appeared on the screen. It read, "War ends here." The crew looked at one another in silence. Their throats dry, one whispered, "What does it mean?" The commander's voice cracked as he said, "It means humans build ships not to fight battles, but to finish them." The words struck the crew harder than any weapon. As the drones pushed deeper, the interference grew worse. Their signals blurred. Their images broke into static, but not before they revealed more horrors. Massive weapons buried inside the hull. Long barrels stretching through the ship like the bones of a beast. Every weapon was twice the size of anything the aliens had ever designed. One scientist gasped and said these weapons were not made to disable enemies. They were made to erase them. The youngest alien covered his mouth with trembling hands. He said quietly, "How could humans think like this? No species builds such terrible things unless they fear extinction." The commander did not answer, because he too remembered the old stories, the stories of human wars, tales of cities burning, seas boiling, and skies black with ash. It was said humans had nearly destroyed themselves once, and yet here they were, building ships like gods of death. Suddenly one drone's feed cut off. The crew shouted. The monitor went black. Then another feed collapsed. One by one the drones lost connection until only one remained, its camera shaking as if caught in a storm. The final images it sent showed movement, faint glimmers of light in the warship's corridors, like eyes opening in the dark, before the screen too went dead. The command room filled with silence, broken only by the sound of breathing. The aliens stared at their empty screens, realizing that the warship had not only noticed them, but had chosen to strike without firing a single shot. It had swallowed their machines whole. One engineer whispered, "The ship is alive. It is hunting us." Fear spread through the crew like wildfire. Some demanded they retreat immediately. Others argued that if they left without knowledge, their leaders would punish them. The commander struggled, his heart pounding. He had seen many things in war, but never something like this. He finally gave the order to pull back the remaining ships, but before they could move, the human warship shifted. Its dark hull groaned. Faint lights flickered along its spine, like the awakening of a giant beast. The alien crew froze, staring at their monitors in terror. The warship was not dead, it was waking. Then, through the silence of space, a sound reached their comms. At first it was faint static, then it grew clearer, words spoken in an old, harsh human voice. The crew held their breath as the message repeated again and again. "You should not have looked." The commander felt his blood turn cold. The crew's faces paled. No one moved, no one spoke. Every second felt like an eternity. The human warship glowed faintly, its weapons still hidden but alive. The commander gave the order to cut comms, to shut down all scans, to stop provoking the beast they had awakened. But even as they retreated, every alien knew a truth they could never unlearn. The humans had built warships that defied reason, ships that were more than machines, ships that were warnings, and the warning was clear. Do not touch humanity, do not test them, for when their warships wake, the stars themselves may burn. The alien fleet floated in uneasy silence. Their drones had been lost. Their scanners had failed, yet the commander could not bring himself to turn away. Something about the human warship demanded more, demanded that they uncover its truth. It was like staring at a dark abyss. The longer you looked, the more it pulled you in. Against the cries of his crew, the commander ordered a new type of scan, low frequency, long range, subtle enough that the warship might not notice. The crew hesitated but obeyed. Beams of invisible energy stretched across the void, sweeping across the hull of the silent giant. The data that came back was jagged, distorted, and almost unreadable, yet there was enough to chill every heart in the room. Deep inside the warship, behind layer after layer of armor, were massive structures. The shapes were unmistakable, weapons not dozens, not hundreds but thousands. The entire ship was a cathedral of destruction. Every corridor and chamber built around machinery meant only for war. The scientists spoke in hushed tones, their voices shaking. One said the humans had not built a ship. They had built a nightmare. The aliens compared the scale to their own fleet. One gun of the human warship carried more destructive power than an entire alien battleship. Worse, the readings showed instability. The weapons were not carefully balanced like alien designs. They were raw, overcharged, as if humans had chosen brute force over precision. One scientist whispered that firing even one of those cannons might tear the ship apart. Another whispered something even darker. Maybe the humans did not care. The crew stared at the numbers, their minds refusing to believe. Who would build weapons that could destroy not only their enemies but themselves? Who would risk annihilation with every shot? The commander knew the answer. Only humans. Only a species that had burned its own world with fire and risen from the ashes. Only a people who had learned survival through destruction. The more they uncovered, the worse it became. Another scan revealed a hidden chamber. It pulsed with energy so intense that their monitors nearly overloaded. One of the scientists gasped and shouted that it was not a reactor, not a shield, but something else, something designed to bend the very fabric of space. The crew fell silent, realizing the humans had built weapons not just to kill fleets but to scar the galaxy itself. And then came the final horror at the heart of the ship. Their scans found a core chamber large and empty but not lifeless. Faint biosignatures flickered across the screen. Not one, not two, but hundreds. The crew's blood ran cold. They had believed the warship abandoned. But the humans were there, hidden in cryosleep, waiting. The youngest alien clutched his chest. Unable to breathe, he whispered that it made no sense. Why build such a monster and then leave it drifting? Why fill it with warriors and then put them to sleep? The commander's voice was low and grim as he answered, "Because humans do not wait for war. They prepare for it, and when it comes, they rise." The crew argued in terror. Some demanded they flee at once. Others insisted they had to warn the galaxy. But before any decision could be made, the warship stirred. A low hum rolled across the void. Faint lights traced along its hull. The crew screamed as energy readings spiked to impossible levels. The commander shouted for silence. His eyes locked on the monitors. Then it happened. The warship's weapons, once hidden, revealed themselves. Great cannons shifted out from the hull, their barrels glowing with restrained fire. The alien fleet was bathed in light not from stars, but from the awakening of a predator. The crew trembled as the realization sank in. The ship was not only alive, it was aware. It had been listening the whole time. A voice crackled through their comms. Deep, cold, and human, though no face appeared. The words struck harder than any shot. "You wanted to see, now you know." The command room fell into chaos. Some aliens begged to retreat, others froze in silence. The commander stood rigid, his claws digging into the console, his heart pounding like a drum. He had seen war, he had seen death, but never had he felt the weight of doom so close. The human warship did not fire. Its weapons glowed but held their silence. Instead, the voice returned, calm and merciless. "War is not a game, it is an end, and when humans fight, we do not stop until the end is complete." The crew shivered, realizing the terrible truth. The humans had not built this warship to win battles. They had built it to end wars forever, to erase their enemies so completely that no one would ever rise against them again. The commander turned slowly to his crew, his voice heavy with fear. "This is not a ship, it is a warning." The others nodded in silence, their eyes fixed on the glowing beast that floated before them, a predator of steel and fire watching, waiting. And as the alien fleet pulled back, drifting into the safety of distance, one thought echoed in every mind. If this was just one warship hidden and sleeping, what would happen if the humans woke them all? What would happen if the lions of Earth rose together? The galaxy would not survive. The alien fleet drifted in the cold silence of space, their ships trembling from the echoes of what they had seen. They had scanned the human warship. They had touched its secrets, and now they wished they had not. The beast of steel floated before them, glowing faintly, its massive weapons humming like the low growl of a predator about to strike. Inside the command room, no one spoke. The crew sat frozen, their hearts thundering. Then, without warning, the warship stirred again. The hum grew louder, the glow brighter. A ripple of energy ran across its hull like blood rushing through veins. And then came the moment they all feared. The ship awakened. The first sign was the lights, small at first, then spreading like fire through corridors long hidden in darkness. Then came the engines, ancient yet powerful, roaring with a force that shook the void. The alien crew clutched their seats as their screens filled with impossible readings. This ship was no longer a ghost. It was alive. Then came the final truth: they were not alone. The scanners lit up with hundreds of life signs inside the warship. The frozen humans had awakened, their heartbeats steady, their bodies stirring after a long sleep. The aliens watched in horror as the pods inside the warship opened one by one, soldiers rising, eyes burning with purpose, their movements sharp, precise, as if they had never been asleep at all. The human crew did not speak at first. They moved in silence, activating systems, checking weapons, preparing their giant. The aliens could only stare, helpless, unable to breathe. The humans had seen them. They had felt their presence, and now they were ready. Then the comms crackled to life. The alien commander leaned forward, his claws shaking. A voice came through, deep and steady, every word carrying the weight of authority. "Who dares touch the Lion of Earth?" The words struck the crew like thunder. Silence followed. No one dared reply. The aliens looked to their commander, but even he had no answer. His mouth opened and closed, yet no words came, for he knew the truth. They had touched something sacred, something untouchable, the human captain continued, his voice calm but filled with hidden fire. "You scanned our ship. You searched our walls. You woke us from sleep. And yet you stand here waiting. Do you not know what you face?" The alien fleet held its breath. The commander lowered his head, his body trembling. Never before had he felt so powerless. His fleet outnumbered the single warship, but numbers no longer mattered. What stood before them was not just a vessel. It was history, fury, and survival forged into steel. The humans activated their weapons, massive cannons sliding into position, glowing like suns trapped in iron, targeting systems locked onto the alien fleet. Every ship lit up red on their monitors. The alien crew screamed, yet still the warship did not fire. The captain's voice returned, colder this time. "We are humans when we fight. We do not stop. When we rise, we do not fall. Remember that before you choose your path." The aliens felt their bodies shake, sweat dripping. Their instincts screamed at them to flee, yet their pride held them in place. The commander tried to find courage, his voice finally breaking through the silence. "We mean no harm. We only sought knowledge." For a moment there was no reply, only the hum of the human engines. Then the captain spoke again, softer but no less terrifying. "Knowledge is not free, it is earned in blood. If you seek to know humanity, you will know our wars, our pain, our fire." The alien commander gave the order at once. "Retreat. Retreat at all costs." Engines roared as the fleet turned away, fleeing into the safety of distance. No one argued, no one hesitated. They ran. Not from numbers, not from strategy, but from the raw weight of a single human warship and its awakened crew. As the stars stretched around them and the warship faded into the distance, the crew sat in silence, their breaths heavy, their minds scarred. They had seen what no alien had ever seen, and they would never forget. Humanity was not a race to be challenged lightly. They were a storm waiting to rise, a fire waiting to burn, and in the heart of space, the human warship watched them go, its engines silent once more, its crew steady, patient, waiting for the day when the galaxy would test them again. And when that day came, humanity would not hesitate. They would awaken fully, and the universe would learn why even the bravest feared the lions of Earth. The alien fleet fled into the deep void, their engines burning as they put distance between themselves and the human warship. But no matter how far they went, the image of that awakening ship clung to them, its glowing weapons, its fearless captain, its crew of survivors rising from sleep as if death itself could not hold them. Yet even distance could not calm the crew's fear. They needed to understand what they had witnessed. They needed answers in the command chamber. The scientists argued, their voices sharp and frantic. One shouted that no species could build such a thing without a reason. Another whispered that humans were reckless, dangerous, willing to risk everything for victory. The commander silenced them with a raised claw, his voice grim. If we cannot fight them, we must learn about them. Knowledge may be the only weapon we have. Reluctantly, they agreed. The fleet turned their scanners not on the warship now, but on the ancient records hidden in their own archives. Data they had once dismissed as myth, fragmented reports of human wars, conflicts across centuries, and the strange rise of Earth's children from a single fragile world into the stars. The records streamed across their screens, and with each image the crew grew more silent. They saw Earth's history, endless battles across its own surface, nations fighting nations, cities turned to rubble, skies black with fire. They saw humans wielding weapons that scorched the land, seas boiling, whole continents trembling under their fury. One alien scientist covered her eyes, whispering that no species should have survived such destruction. Yet somehow humans had. The records shifted to images of the great world wars, men and women standing in trenches covered in mud and blood, yet still fighting, their eyes empty of fear, their hands steady on their weapons. The aliens watched with disbelief. They had seen soldiers before, but never like this. Never a species that looked death in the face and refused to step back. Then came the nuclear age. The screens lit up with fire brighter than suns, mushroom clouds rising into the sky, cities vanishing in light. The aliens gasped, some recoiled, some whispered that humanity had nearly destroyed itself, and yet somehow they had survived again. One of the younger crew members spoke softly, trembling. They did not just survive, they learned. They grew stronger. The commander's eyes narrowed as the records continued, showing humanity's expansion into the stars. Their ships crude at first, then powerful. Their colonies harsh, their battles unending. Pirates, rebels, rival species, and yet always the same outcome. The humans endured, they adapted, and they won. Their victories were not clean or elegant. They were brutal, merciless, but effective. The scientists scrolled further, until they reached classified reports. Tales told by other alien species who had once crossed paths with Earth. Fleets that vanished, colonies burned, warriors who swore they would break humanity, only to be erased. One line repeated again and again in those reports. Humans do not surrender. The alien crew sat in silence, the weight of those words pressing on them. They understood now why the warship had been built. It was not a weapon of pride or conquest, it was a message, a declaration written in steel and fire. Humanity had learned through blood that survival required strength, and they had given themselves the means to make sure no enemy would ever break them again. One of the scientists whispered a thought that chilled the room. If this is only one warship, then how many more sleep across the stars waiting? No one answered because the truth was too terrible to face. The commander leaned forward. His claws trembling slightly, he spoke in a low voice. We thought they were fragile. We thought they were reckless, but what we have seen is willpower forged in fire. They fight not because they want to, but because they must, and in that necessity, they are unstoppable. The records continued to play, showing scenes of humans standing together in the ruins of their cities, rebuilding with bare hands, children laughing among broken walls, soldiers saluting under torn flags. The aliens felt something strange then, something they could not understand. It was not just fear, it was respect, even admiration. For in the ashes of their own destruction, humans found strength. The commander clenched his fists, his voice sharp. Do you see now? This is why their warships terrify us, not because of their weapons, but because of their history, their spirit, their refusal to die. The crew nodded slowly, each lost in thought. The youngest one whispered again, if they rise, who can stand against them? The room fell silent because no one had an answer, and then, as if to remind them, the comms flickered once more, a faint signal echoing from the warship they had fled. The human captain's voice filled their chamber, calm and unshaken. We fight only when forced, but when we fight, we finish what we begin. The words echoed like thunder in their minds, the message clear. Humanity was not hunting them, not yet, but the warning had been given, cross them, and the galaxy itself would feel the storm. The alien commander lowered his head, his voice a whisper. We must tell the Council, the galaxy must know. Humanity is not to be tested. They are the lions, and when the lions wake, the stars will tremble, and so the fleet carried the story. But even as they prepared to deliver their warning, one thought haunted them all. What if the galaxy did not listen? What if arrogance blinded the other races? What if someone provoked the humans? Then the warship they had seen would not be the last. It would only be the beginning, and when that beginning came, nothing would ever be the same again. The alien fleet carried the story of the human warship like a curse. Every ship in their convoy whispered of the awakening they had seen, of the captain's words that cut deeper than any blade, and yet, even as they fled through the stars, the warship followed, not in motion but in presence. Its shadow clung to them. Its memory refused to fade. The commander sat in silence, his claws pressing into the armrest of his chair. He could feel the fear in his crew. It was thick in the air. Every eye avoided the screens. Every hand trembled slightly on the controls. Then the comms flickered again. The static hissed and the human voice returned, calm, steady, and cold. Do not mistake mercy for weakness. The words froze the chamber. The crew stiffened. No one dared to breathe. The voice continued. We see you, we know you, and we allow you to live. But understand this truth. If you force our hand, if you strike at Earth, if you threaten our people, we will not stop. We will not rest. We will not forgive. The commander swallowed hard. His throat dry, the warning was not shouted. It was not filled with rage, it was worse than that. It was spoken with certainty, with the calm of a species that knew its strength and did not need to boast. The human warship lit up again in the distance, faint lights glowing along its hull, massive weapons shifting into view. The alien fleet's scanner screamed with energy spikes. Alarms rang out, the crew shouted in panic, but still, the warship did not fire. Instead, the human captain's voice grew louder. We fight only when we must, but when we fight, we finish wars, not battles. The commander felt his heart twist. The words carried the weight of history, of a people who had fought among themselves for centuries, who had turned their own planet into a battlefield and yet had risen stronger. Now that same spirit stretched across the stars, and it terrified him. The alien fleet tried to pull back further, engines burning at maximum, but every time they gained distance, the warship seemed closer, as if space itself bent around it, as if the ship had chosen to let them run, yet to never let them escape. One of the younger officers whispered, "It's not chasing us. It's watching us." The scientists scrambled to analyze the signals, to understand how the warship's presence spread so far, but no answer came. The data bent and twisted. Every reading ended in the same terrifying conclusion. The human ship was everywhere, or it could be. The commander slammed his claws on the console and shouted, "Stop! Do not search for answers, their warning is enough." The crew fell into silence, all eyes on their leader. He looked at them one by one, his voice low and heavy. "This is not just a ship. It is a message. The humans could have destroyed us, but they chose to warn us instead. Take this lesson and live. Do not test them again." Yet even as he spoke, the warship's weapons locked onto their fleet. Targeting systems lit up like a storm. Each alien ship marked, their screens flashing red. The crew cried out in terror, hands moving to shields and countermeasures, but the commander raised a trembling hand. "Hold. Do not provoke them." The human captain spoke again, his voice like iron. "We do not hunt the weak, but we do not forgive the foolish. Leave now and carry our words. Let the galaxy know Earth does not seek war, but Earth will end it if forced." The crew listened, their fear shifting into something else. Not relief, but respect, deep and unwilling respect. For no species had ever spoken like this. No species had ever carried such power, yet held it with such restraint. The warship's weapons dimmed, the lights faded. The massive cannons retracted back into the hull. The humans had chosen not to strike. They had chosen to let them live. The alien commander exhaled, a sound that was almost a sob, his body trembling. "We are alive. Only because they allow it." The fleet turned, engines burning as they fled into safer regions of space, not daring to look back, not daring to test the patience of the human captain. But even as they left, the warning echoed in their minds. "We fight only when forced, but when we fight, we do not stop." Days passed in silence. The crew could not sleep, could not eat without remembering the warship's shadow. Every dream filled with visions of glowing weapons, of human eyes staring through the void. The scientists argued no longer. The soldiers boasted no longer. The only words spoken were whispers. The lions of Earth are real, and they are waiting. When the alien fleet finally reached the council, they delivered the warning. The chamber filled with leaders from across their worlds. Some scoffed, some laughed, others trembled. The commander stood before them, his eyes dark, his voice raw. "You do not understand. We looked into their history. We saw their fire, and we face their warship. If you push them, if you provoke them, they will not fight you. They will end you. But the council debated, arrogance thick among them. Some argued that humanity was still young, still weak compared to older species. Others warned that fear clouded the truth. Yet the commander knew better. He had heard the human captain's voice. He had seen the awakening of their warship, and he carried the weight of the warning burned into his soul. And somewhere in the void, the Lion of Earth returned to its slumber, its crew silent once more, its weapons hidden, waiting not for conquest, not for pride, but for necessity. Because humans did not seek war, but if war came, they would rise, and the galaxy itself would tremble beneath their roar. The alien council chamber shook with voices. Some raised in anger, some in fear, some in disbelief. Reports of the human warship spread like wildfire. Every species debated. Some claimed the aliens who witnessed it exaggerated. Others said it was a lie meant to frighten them. But the commander who had stood before the warship knew there was no exaggeration, no lie, only truth. He repeated the human captain's words again, his voice cracking under their weight. We fight only when forced, but when we fight, we do not stop. But the council only murmured louder, their arrogance shielding them from fear. One elder scoffed, a single warship cannot terrify the galaxy. Humans are reckless children, nothing more. Yet others looked uneasy, their eyes shifting, for deep in their bones, they knew the truth. The fleet that had seen the Lion of Earth did not speak loudly, but they carried the memory in their silence. Their haunted eyes told the story better than any words. They had seen the weapons, they had felt the ship awaken, and they had heard the human voice echo through the void. They needed no convincing, they already believed. And so the legend began, whispered first in shadows, then spoken openly. Travelers in spaceports told stories of a warship that breathed like a beast, of soldiers who rose from centuries of sleep ready for battle, of a captain whose voice carried the calm of certain doom. Some laughed, but the laughter was thin, forced, for in the silence after, the fear lingered. Merchants told their crews not to cross human trade routes. Pirates muttered that raiding human colonies was no longer worth the risk. Explorers avoided sectors where Earth ships patrolled. And slowly, almost quietly, the galaxy began to shift, not because humans demanded it, but because fear of what they could do spread faster than fire. Among the younger races, the story became a warning told to children. Do not wake the lions of Earth. Among the elder races, it became a debate. Some argued humanity must be confronted before they grew stronger. Others insisted it was already too late. The commander who had seen them shook his head at all of it, knowing the truth no one wished to accept. Humanity did not need to threaten. Their history was threat enough. Back on the human warship, the crew returned to silence. Their weapons powered down. Their captain sat in his command chair, eyes calm, voice steady. They will spread the story. They will know. And that is enough, the soldiers nodded. None questioned, for they understood their role. They were not just warriors. They were symbols, reminders of what humanity had endured and what humanity could unleash. The galaxy listened even when it pretended not to. The words of the human captain echoed from one world to the next. We fight only when forced, but when we fight, we finish wars. And those who heard the legend began to measure their choices differently before striking at a human colony. They remembered the warship before planning war with Earth. They remembered the lions sleeping in the dark. Somewhere in the void, other warships slept, hidden in forgotten orbits, buried beneath ice, drifting in silence. No one knew how many, no one knew where, but the thought alone was enough to shatter courage. If one ship could terrify a fleet, what could 10 do? What could 100 do? The commander who had first seen the Lion of Earth became known as the bearer of the warning. Wherever he traveled, species asked him to retell the story. Each time his voice grew softer, heavier, until the words no longer felt like his own, but like a weight he carried for the galaxy. He would whisper, "It was not just a ship. It was a promise. If pushed, humans will rise, and they will burn the stars if they must." And so the legend rooted itself in the hearts of all who heard it. Some feared it, some respected it, some even admired it, but none could ignore it. The humans themselves did nothing. They did not boast. They did not send fleets to prove their power. They remained silent, watching, waiting. This silence was worse than any open threat, for silence meant patience, and patience meant certainty. Across the stars, a saying began to spread, a whisper among fleets, a chant in secret. Do not wake the lions, it echoed in council chambers, in soldier camps, in the dreams of leaders who planned too boldly. And though many tried to dismiss it, none could escape it. The galaxy had faced conquerors before. It had seen tyrants, it had destroyed empires. But humanity was different. They were not conquerors by nature. They were survivors, and survival forged them into something far more dangerous. They fought not for pride, not for territory, but because they refused to die, and no power in the galaxy could stand against that. The commander returned to his homeworld, older, quieter, his eyes always fixed on the stars. When asked what haunted him, he would only whisper the same words, "I saw their ship. I heard their captain, and I knew. The lions of Earth still sleep, but if they wake, the galaxy will never be the same." And far away, drifting in the dark, the lion of Earth waited, silent once more, its crew patient, its weapons hidden, its heart beating faintly like a predator's breath. Humanity watched. Humanity waited, and the galaxy trembled, for the legend had begun, and legends once born never die.